Hey everyone, Mickey here. I hope you're doing well. Today's video is going to be about vertical stacking our vine layer. And so in this food forest behind me, I use vines as a way to get a yield out of space, kind of double the yield. And today I'm going to show you some of my favorites. We'll see how many we get to. Alright, so follow me. The first vine on the list is Passionfruit, and Passionfruit is one where it needs a good bit of sun in order to get established. So if you're getting one from the store in a pot like this one was, you want to give it a sunny space to get it going. We have this wild Passionfruit, this maypop, this one up here, and this was just on the property already, and it runs everywhere. So it's a little more resilient because it doesn't get the same level of cold damage, and it still needs some good sunlight to be productive and to get going. So if you can get it up to the top of your tree, then you can get some fruit and it can be productive for you. But if you're in like an established forest, it's going to be a lot tougher to get good yields out of it unless you have a really strong plant and just enough light. Once it's in the canopy, then the vines get really productive. So this is in full sunlight, and you can see the amount of fruit on this guy. And this is just a small section. The property is loaded with them. So maypop, that's this one, Passiflora incarnata. With all passion fruit, they are not ripe until they fall off. So you can't go up there and pick them. If you pick them, then they won't be good. But if you look around on the ground, all right, this one, this is an old one. They will fall and they won't be so wrinkly like this. They'll just be green and they'll be super sweet. But you just open them up, and as long as you got a nice orange color on the inside, then it is very much slurp worthy and good. And since we have a whole crew following us, I'm going to see if the chickens like passion flower as much as I do. Hey film crew, what'd you think? It's got seeds and everything. Alright, so the next plant on my list is definitely one of my favorites, and it's a great one for if you're growing in a spot where you don't have a lot of light, because this plant can get up into the canopy. This guy, I'm picking some bulbils. This is the water yam, or the greater yam, and what's cool is you grow it from these bulbils that it makes, but you can also grow it from a chunk out of the tuber that it makes down at the bottom. And this one, which I planted just this last year, has only had 1 year in the ground, has a pretty substantial tuber. So let me show it to you. Come around this way. So I grew them up in these pots because I wanted them to be easier to harvest. It makes a massive root, but then you have to go and dig it out of the ground. So I thought, hey, I've got all these little containers. This was some sort of industrial waste container, and I cut the top and bottom off. Thought, I've got a raised planter. Well, this water yam went and busted it out. So if you see, here's where it starts. Here's the tuber, and it goes all the way down and around. This thing's massive, and I want to show it to you. So give me 1 second. I could probably get another maybe 5 pounds if I let it grow all the way till frost, but I want to show it to you now. So you'll see. Might have to cut these. It grows fast this time of year, putting all its energy down into its root. Now the cool thing about water yams is that you can leave them in the ground multiple years and they'll just get bigger and bigger. That was pretty easy to harvest. And it's got these cool leaves to it. Big. Now this is a lot of food, and if you take a second to go pan upwards, I grew this one in the oak trees because the water yam, what it's going to do is it is going to smother a lot at the top. Passion fruit can do it as well, but this one's going to shoot up to the top and block a lot of light. Up at the very top, put a lot of leaves. But what's so great, and why I recommend this one for, if you've got a shady backyard, is that this one you can get a bigger piece of energy to plant initially, and it can shoot all the way up in total shade up into the top of a tree, and then you can get this massive amount of food at the bottom. So water yam is just like any other yam. It's a slime. It's not like sweet potato. It's very slimy. But what's also really great about this plant is that it stores for a really long time. So I could store this up to 4 months without any damage to it, just by keeping it cool and dry. And after it gets cut, it heals off and doesn't rot. So it's very mucilaginous, but that allows it to seal itself and be protected. And you can even just chop up pieces and plant them. So this is a great one to grow as well. And I'm going to get a clip to you after I finish washing this off, just to see how big it is and how much it weighs. So on to the next plant. All right, next plant on the list is another good one. This is the Luffa gourd or vine or whichever. It's Luffa egyptica, and it's an edible one. I know there are a couple others. I think they're all a little bit edible. But if you look up, it's covering this mulberry tree. So now we have the production of the mulberries, and we have a vine that was a volunteer. I did not even intentionally plant this one at all. I noticed it kind of sneaking along early in the year, creeping its way up, and then at the end of the summer it just explodes. So if you kind of look up and through, it's full of Luffa, and if you look out that way, you can see more back there. So it's covered a lot of space. This is a really big vine, and this is one that's pretty decent at getting up into the light, but again, since it's starting from seed, you need to give it light to start. So you got to cut a hole in your canopy or do something like that to really get it to be productive. So this is a cool plant in that it is edible, and you eat them when they're bigger than this, but smaller than that, probably. Yeah. Here we go. This is this is perfect eating size. So Luffa, when it's young and tender like this, is just like a zucchini, and then as it gets older and harder, the inside starts to get that Luffa that you're familiar with. Whenever they change color, this is when the inside is fully developed and it can come off the tree. And I'm gonna let this one stay on, but I got a brown one right here. This one looks like it might have, I'm gonna snip it. Might actually be rotting and not a good demonstration. But when they're fully developed, they're really easy to peel. And the way you clean a loofah, because we're being thorough in this video, because everybody needs some loofahs for the shower. So the way to clean a loofah is to peel it. You should find a better one. They peel pretty easy. This one's rotten, that's why it's not peeling. You also knock the tab off the bottom, and then you shake all the seeds out. This had no seeds, this part rotten. And shake it out, and then just give it a good rinse. So you spray it really hard and rinse it out, and that's it. Let me find a better one. And all right, we'll do this guy. So here we go. This is too green. You would want it more yellow, but I know it's going to be developed enough. So first, kind of slide the thumb underneath. If you get them at just the right stage, not only are they easy to peel, but they also last a little longer because the fiber is more developed. And all of the brown that comes kind of from my dirty hands, that'll all rinse off. Alright. Like opening Christmas presents. Christmas came early. So you get it about like this, and then you find something hard, you can hear them flying out, and I'm planting Luffa. I'm a dummy. Nah, it's a great plant to have, but flying out, and if we had water nearby, I would use a pressure hose, and you just kind of wring it and wash it, and wring it and wash it, and you're just rinsing all of the stuff off of the fiber, And after you got it nice and clean, then you just let it air dry. And once it's dried, it's a really great sponge for the shower, for the sink. Has a ton of great uses. A quick pause en route because I wanted to show you Luffa is such a weed here on the property that I have so many that they go straight into the compost pile if they're not perfect to give away to friends and things like that. So they also will just decompose. So one more thing that's kind of cool, Luffa, the green stuff, it actually foams up like so. You see that? I think it's got some saponins in it. And so how about nature for providing us with, because it actually, you know, feels cleaner after as well. I'm sure it's saponins. And how cool is that? It's the sponge and the soap in one. So Luffa's pretty cool for that. All right, you guys, number 4 on the list are the grapes, the Vitus. And this is a Muscadine grape, Ison. And it's growing up and over the chicken run so that in case I don't harvest them and they fall, the chickens can eat the fruit. Now what's cool about grapes is that they are perennial, and what is not cool about grapes is that they really need pruning in order to be productive. So you can grow grapes, but there's something that you probably want to manage. So it's for a bit of a different situation than where you would plant water yam or a loofah or something like that that's more annual. Now, in addition to the grapes, I had another great vine come up and grow with them on top of them this year to double the productivity, and that's number 5. So we're going to go inside and see it. In case there was any confusion, that is pretty weird to have grapes this time of year. So that was a second flowering from the grapevine, probably because of the stress that it got by being covered with number 5 here. Number 5 is the velvet bean. Now this is a plant that is straight out of Jack and the Beanstalk. Really tremendous growth during the warm weather season. So that's why it's used in fields as like a cover crop and for fodder. But it can go up and cover, and it has a lot of uses. So I eat the velvet beans green. These are all dried pods now, but as they're coming in, it's so fast. If you get a green pod and you boil them, you get the really nice flavor, kind of a nutty flavor of the seeds, and then the flesh, kind of like a green bean, you know, the flesh of the seed pod. The flesh of the seed pod on a velvet bean is really nice and has a artichoke kind of flavor. So eating them green, you get that. And then if they do, sorry, scratching my throat. If they do dry, then you have dry beans. And velvet beans are really tough to shell, but if they're bone dry, they pop open and reveal these nice seeds. Now, these take forever to cook. They're nice and dry and hard, and so they definitely need a pre-soak, and it'll probably take you an hour. Not much different than your normal beans, but just that it's a nice hard dry bean that stores well. So there's a lot of calories coming out of this space. The velvet bean is not for the chickens, but the chickens have been eating the leaves when I cut it and brought it down to them. So that's it. That's 5 really great vines that allow you to capture more sunlight energy to make the most out of your space. I would probably say, as far as ruliness or unruliness, they're all pretty unruly, but the ones that you can manage the most are passion fruit and grape. They'll respond best to the trimming. The velvet bean and the loofah, being that they're annuals, they're just gonna go and need to go. And then the water yam just goes up, you know, straight up. So it's also one where all of your food is coming from the quantity of leaf surface area you have. So it's one where you want to let it go. So if you have a lot of space, then try those 3. And if you have less space, then try passion fruit or try grape. And as far as trees that I like to grow them in, moringa and mulberry are my 2 favorites. You know, sending passion vine up moringa is a really great combo, and sending anything up mulberry is a really great combo. Mulberry shares light really well. In fact, that big old trunk right there behind us is a nice Pakistan mulberry that drops fruit into the chicken run. So I let the vines go up it, and then I kind of pull them out when it gets to be too much, but they all share light really well. So yeah, if you pan this way, we've got a guest coming up to say hi. Hello. We almost forgot the big reveal. We washed the water yam and show you just the potential of this plant for 1 year of growth. Dun dun dun. Here it is. And it's a big one. All right. So here's where the vines were coming up and out, and it was just one bulbil that I put on the ground. It's got kind of like two hemispheres, but it's all one plant, and I'd say it's around 30 pounds or more of food that came from one, and we even left some in the soil. So we even lost some yam. This guy broke off from here. But this is a pretty impressive food plant for these warm climate places, and it's definitely, if you're the survivalist permaculturalist, the kind of bug out, I need food, wild forager, then this is the plant for you, just for how well it stores. So now we've covered all 5, and now we can wrap it up and say there are some great vines out there that can give you food, give you fruit, give you lots of great things, and add them to your food forest. All right, y'all. Peace.